From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Hannah Mordo, and this is your News 8 Daily for Monday, April 20th. It's sunny, but cool outside. Well, it's going to be sunny. Right now, we're starting out feeling like winter again, really. We're in the low 40s this morning, and we're going to jump up to the 50s today, but it's not going to be anything like we saw last week. At least, though, the sun is going to be out.
Central Indiana. Wish TV is now live on YouTube TV and Hulu Live, offering more hours of local programming than any other station. Search for Wish TV or look for CW8 on both YouTube TV and Hulu Live to find us. Watch local news, sports, and lifestyle shows live from Wish TV. You can still catch Wish TV free over the air or stream it live on wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile apps. Wish TV, available in more places for the latest news, weather, and sports.
Multiple Latino businesses on the northwest side were a target of a string of break-ins. News 8's Kat Sandoval breaks down security footage that shows the crimes as they happened.
Business owners and workers are scared and shaken. Owners woke up Saturday morning to find their businesses had been broken into. It was a smash and grab, with windows at 6 businesses broken, and cash was stolen from their registers. Video shows 4 people walking into a sporting goods store, Zona Soccer. They head straight for the cash register. The owner tells me they got away with about $100 in cash and left behind more than $3,000 in damage. At the International restaurant, it's a similar scene. Thieves smash through a glass window and go right for the register. In one close-up, you can see 2 of them holding guns. The restaurant even shared a zoomed-in screenshot of one of the suspects. 6 businesses were targeted. Over at the candy shop, Dulceria El Caramelo, the manager says they're still reeling. About $500 was taken and a double-pane glass window damaged.
You don't feel safe anymore, especially when we're family-owned businesses. We have our families here sometimes. I have my kids here. So we're just blessed that it didn't happen during the daylight instead of happening at 4 a.m. when we're not here. But it's still scary to know that people are scoping out the area and trying to see what they can take from these small places.
Despite all of this, every business is still open. Workers tell me they don't think this was racially motivated. Rather, they believe juveniles may be involved. And these places were targeted because they're smaller, family-run businesses without the same security as large corporations.
It was scary. We've been here for 15 years. We were in shock because it has never happened to us.
And all of this comes at a time when a lot of small business owners are already struggling.
Just come out and support all the businesses that are going through this. I know a lot of them are going through it. Some were thinking of closing down prior to this, so now this is hitting. And I know a lot of them are going to really be struggling.
Owners and workers want the thieves to be held accountable. They are encouraging anyone with any information to reach out to police. I'm Kat Sandoval for Wish TV, wishtv.com.
Indiana's best political team says emergency funding for the state's child care voucher program does not solve the funding problem, but it's a good start. News 8's government reporter Garrett Berkowitz sat down with the team for this week's episode of All Indiana Politics.
I don't know if it's a panacea to solve the problem, but it definitely addresses it, and it's good government being responsive to its people. Looking at the budget, looking at where you're able to utilize some funding to fill this need. We've talked about it on this show time and time again that it is important that we are supporting and having support for parents that need childcare. So the fact that the governor has been able to address this in this way outside of a budget year is commendable.
Yeah, Lindsay, the state cut the rate at which it reimburses child care providers. That was in addition to freezing the vouchers last year. Does that blunt the impact of this funding decision?
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. You know, I think I was on the panel that week that this happened in November, and you know, my child care was really impacted hard by this. My child care provider, excuse me. And so they cut back, they fired staff, or let staff go, sorry. And it was a really huge impact for Hoosiers, not just low income Hoosiers, but an entire sector. So this was a huge, huge, huge push backwards for Indiana. And I appreciate that the child care advocates are so positive for this happening. Yes, it's great to get kids back on the off the wait list and back enrolled. the voucher being made available to those folks and to siblings first is important. However, I think instead of an investment, I reject the phrase that it's an investment for Indiana. I think this was a promise that was left unkept to Hoosiers, and this happened before the budget session. We could have, before the legislative session, where we could have addressed it in a larger, more meaningful way than, say, for example, the frog funding. And so I really think that we could have done more for Hoosiers here, but I'm glad it's happening.
I want to touch on something you both have alluded to, and that's the extensive lobbying from parents as well as child care providers. This is for both of you. Do you think that made a difference?
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. I think we had over 300 different child care providing agencies close or shut down or have to shutter due to issues with vouchers and being able to sustain that workforce. And so being a responsive leader and seeing that the decisions that were being made and the way that funding was being allocated was going to detrimentally not only impact children, but impact a workforce, not only a child care workforce, but the workforce of the parents relying on that. And Governor Braun actually deciding we're going to do something about it, we're not just going to talk about it or punt it down the field, is what you want to see in leadership.
I'm Garrett Bergquist for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
You can see in-depth discussions of the issues that matter to you most, like that, every Sunday on All Indiana Politics. It airs at 9:30 in the morning right here on Wish TV. The U.S. military has attacked and seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship that tried to evade the U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. This marks the first interception since the blockade of Iranian ports began last week. U.S. Central Command says a Navy ship first fired at the vessel, then U.S. Marines boarded and seized the ship. The Iranian military called the act a violation of the ceasefire and an act of piracy and fired several vessels in the strait in response. The ceasefire is set to expire on Wednesday, and President Trump says the U.S. diplomats are headed to Pakistan to negotiate with Iran today. Global oil prices rose in early trading on Sunday as the standoff between Iran and the U.S. prevented tankers from passing the Strait of Hormuz. Brent crude, the international standard, rose 5.8% to $95.64 a barrel. U.S. crude climbed 6.4% to $87.90 per barrel. AAA says the average price for a gallon of gas now in Indiana is at $3.76. That is down 20 cents from yesterday. Prices at the Indianapolis metro area are $3.73, down about 11 cents from yesterday. Diesel is sitting at $5.37. That is down 1 cent. 8 children are dead after a mass shooting on Sunday in Louisiana. Police say the father of 7 of the children was the shooter. It was the nation's deadliest mass shooting since January of 2024. Reed Binion reports.
We can confirm the suspect in these 8 homicides is Shamar Elkins. He is believed to be the man responsible for this heinous act.
Authorities in Louisiana identifying the gunman they say shot and killed 8 children, 7 of them his own, across 3 Shreveport homes Sunday. The slain children included 7 siblings and a cousin. The 3 boys and 5 girls ranged in age from 3 to 11. The gunman's wife, the mother of his children, was the first person shot Sunday, sustaining very serious injuries, according to authorities. The shooter then went to a separate residence and shot the children and another woman who was the mother of the 8th child killed.
There's another female that was in this residence that has life-threatening injuries.
The gunman carjacked a vehicle and led police on a chase into a neighboring parish.
The vehicle was chased into Bossier Parish, and at which point in time, Shreveport police officers did discharge their firearm, and that individual is deceased.
Police said the shootings were, quote, domestic in nature.
These are the tragedies when there are domestic violence or domestic disturbances in our community.
The community in mourning and traumatized by the killings, with many calling for a concerted effort to prevent anything like this from ever happening again.
Please utilize every resource that the sheriff has brought forth now. This family and this community needs you. I need you.
I'm Reed Binion for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
Tom Griswold, the host of The Tom and Bob Show, says he plans to release a tribute to his friend on their show today. Bob Kevoian died Friday at the age of 75 after a battle with gastric cancer. Our Kat Sandoval sat down with Tom as he looked back on his time with Bob.
Generations of Hoosiers know Bob Kevoian's voice, and especially his laugh. His friends and co-host of more than 40 years, Tom Griswold, remembers it well.
Oh, Bob had a great natural laugh. That was just his laugh. And I was glad to have it quite often. I'm sure you've been in a restaurant and someone has a terrible laugh and and you look over and God, I'm gonna have to move. Bob's was the opposite. It was very appealing for the most part.
Tom gave me a tour of the radio station, showing different things that remind him of his good friend Bob.
Oh, this is the original drawing.
He was everywhere and knew almost everyone. The Bob and Tom Show launched back in March of 1983 and went national in 1995. Over the years, it helped launch the careers of countless comedians and musicians. Bob retired in 2015, the same year he was inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame. What would you say is one thing that you miss the most about your friend?
I probably spent in these various studios more time with him than anyone except his wife. You know, we were in here 4+ hours, 5 days a week for 35 years. And as Bob always said, our show was a conversation between two friends.
Tom says it's those conversations and the laughter that he'll miss the most. It's been just a day since Bob lost his battle with cancer, and Tom walked us through Bob's final hours.
That morning he had said to someone, "I'm having fun, I'm gonna have a good day." And as far as I know, that was more or less his final thought. So I guess that's all you can ask for. Told him some private stuff in his ear. Hope he heard it. Sorry.
It's okay.
And then his family, they put on the record. It was his favorite. Sorry. The Beatles' Golden Slumbers. And they sang that sometime after 5 o'clock. And Bob was in the bed breathing, but not necessarily awake. And almost cinematically or poetically, when they stopped singing and the song ended and Bob just took his last breath.
Bob's humor, his laugh, his voice, they'll always live on through the radio. Tom says he doesn't have a single favorite joke with Bob, but says they were always just trying to make each other laugh.
Funny, engaging, a great listener, which is very important. Particularly when he's with me, not a great listener.
His name and face still fill this studio. But there was a time, decades ago, when two young guys, Bob and Tom, first walked through the door.
But I remember walking up those steps, and last night, it was a Friday, and I remember walking down those steps and thinking about the last time Bob walked down them. And I'll never walk down them again.
Tom is now working on a tribute to Bob, and it's set to air Monday on The Bob and Tom Show. I'm Kat Sandoval for Wish TV, wishtv.com.
Training camp for the Indiana Fever is officially underway, with a star player finally returning to the court. The team practiced for the first time Sunday morning. Star guard Caitlin Clark was on the court with the team after missing most of last season due to that injury, groin injury especially. Clark says she is 100% and excited to be back.
More than anything, just really excited. I feel really healthy and feel like I put myself in a position to be as healthy as I can be to start the season, and kind of just staying on top of that and having a lot of fun. I think I have, like I said, great perspective on everything.
The Fever will face the New York Liberty this Saturday for the first game of the preseason. Tip-off is at 3 in the afternoon in Brooklyn. IndyCar drivers hit the pavement for the Acura Grand Prix on Long Beach on Sunday, and Meyer Shanks Racing Felix Rosenqvist started on the pole position. He was hoping to complete perfect weekend by getting his first ever win, but even though he led for 57 laps, Alex Palou got in front after a pit stop, and it was all over from there. Chip Ganassi, racing driver, got his second straight win, winning his first ever Grand Prix of Long Beach. The win also gives Palou the lead in the championship standings, passing Kyle Kirkwood.
It's super historic, such a big event for IndyCar and motorsport in general. So we've been close. We were close before, last year finishing second. And we finished in the podium before, but never got the win. So super happy to to finally get the win here, get to celebrate, get good momentum for the month of May.
Of course, this leads up to the Indy 500. We are just 34 days away from the green flag and only 10 days away from the month of May. Actor and comedian Eddie Murphy now has a Life Achievement Award. The American Film Institute honored him in his 5-decade-long career with an award on Saturday. Past recipients include Nicole Kidman and Julie Andrews. The event raised more than $2.5 million to support the American Film Institute nonprofit. You can catch the ceremony on Netflix starting on May 31st. This has been your News 8 Daily from Wish TV. I'm Hannah Mordell. Watch us on Wish TV and wishtv.com.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.